All right, well, folks, as we get going, Bill will join us, I'm sure. I just wanted to thank everybody for joining, obviously, with all the support we have. And it's nice to get these meetings going. I'd rather be in person, but this is great. And I'm glad everybody has the chance to log on and be here tonight. And as far as last meeting, we were down to committee members. And actually, I have to start recording. Is somebody recording or no?
Yes, I'm recording.
All right, great. Thank you. And now we have replaced those vacancies, and Brian Creamer is on with us now. Brian, wave.
Hey.
And he is a resident, new resident, and it's nice to have new blood in the neighborhood and on the committee, obviously. And Dan Rokas of Zesties will be joining us, and he actually had a prior conflict before we had the scheduled meeting, and we brought him on board. And he did what he could to try to attend. And he is all apologies, but I'll follow up with him to fill him in on what we discussed tonight, and look forward to him being on the team as well. And so Brian, with that, we appreciate you being here officially. Brian was on the call last week and was excited to be here, and he stepped right up to become a member of the committee, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks.
Yeah, Brian, you want to just say a couple of things about what made you want to join, and a little bit quick interest background?
Sure. So yeah, for everybody, my name is Brian Creamer. I'm originally from Salem, New Hampshire, by way of Malden. Just moved to Chelmsford back in November of last year, so just pre-COVID. And I have a background in landscape architecture and urban planning, and it's mostly what I do for a living. I work for a civil engineering consultant. Most of my work is either urban or institutional master planning and infrastructure design and planning. I also just have a real passion for, the neighborhood that I live in. So I volunteered in Malden for many years before moving up here, and just want to help out. I mean, this seemed like the place I could do the most good nearest to me. I think all of us see a whole lot of potential in the square, and there's a lot of history and pedagogy that's, there. So I don't want to step on any toes and bring any new crazy ideas, but I certainly want to see stuff move forward and want to help out where I can.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the board.
Thanks.
For the committee.
So normally would be all, handshakes and glad and chatting and introductions, but we'll have to make do. And then Dan obviously has been a member of the community, owner of Zesties for a while, and we look forward to his contributions from a business standpoint to get things done. Bill thinks he's on the meeting. I don't know if anybody is in the waiting room that I don't see. I told him to make sure. What's that?
There's a telephone. Someone called in.
Okay.
Is that Bill?
It's not the number I have for him.
That's Colleen. That's me.
Oh,
Like Walsh.
gotcha.
Oh, that's your phone dialing in? Okay.
Yeah, so I don't have the feedback.
Okay. All right. We'll keep an eye out for him if he goes into the waiting room, because he's definitely going to be coming up. Okay, he's getting in now. Here he is. Bill? All right, Bill will be joining us. So again, Brian, welcome. And one of the things on the committee and the kind of the things we want to get going, and we mentioned this last week, is to really, as we get going with this committee, we want to make sure we really get the neighborhood committee going and try and gain traction with the business committee. And I'll follow up with Dan on doing that if anybody wants to participate in that as well. But we really want to keep doing that. And we had already discussed before everybody joined about the holiday committee. And the holiday decorating committee, we usually, set up people that will install the lights and have a really nice celebration and have a lighting ceremony with Santa for the kids with music and a lot of entertainment, and obviously, unfortunately, under these circumstances, we're not going to be able to do that. But we will still make sure that gets done. And speaking of committees, I just want to give a shout out, and I meant to last week. Janet did a phenomenal job over the summer making sure that the planters and the flowers were maintained, and you know, you can't take any of that for granted. Some of the things that are done behind the scenes, even though we weren't meeting regularly. I know a lot of people that are on this committee or that are involved with the neighborhood do make sure we continue to get things done, whether it's, you know, safety down and things down at the park. And that's why we're happy to see Steve here. He's good support to us with the playgrounds in the park. Laura with North Town Hall, but Janet did a phenomenal job making sure those planters were done without a hitch, and we stopped meeting and it just got taken care of. So that I appreciate it. And as Bill, as you know, yes, well, thank you. They're beautiful. Now it's time to worry about taking them down, you know, so that will come. Yeah. So again, and Bill has a lot of connections and has done things and has a lot to add through this agenda to make sure we're up to speed on other things that are developing in the neighborhood and in the square. So I appreciate everybody here and look forward to taking this next year to another level. And like I said, Varney Playground, I'll follow up with the neighbors there. Quarry and asphalt plant traffic options, things have been happening there, but do we have a latest update on any developments with the quarry plant for the traffic?
So it was on the most recent Board of Selectmen's meeting. And I do see Selectwoman Virginia Timmins on the call. She may want to update the committee. If not, I can give it my best shot. I would strongly suggest that for full details, tune into either watch the last Select Board's meeting or tune into upcoming Select Board meetings. The Select Board is actively discussing and reviewing options at this point.
Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you, Bill. I was going to refer to you as well, so please.
Hey, I finally made it on. I'm sorry. I can put you on video. I'm not home yet, though. Sorry, I had a board meeting, believe it or not. To say that things are a mess, Virginia knows this. I had a conversation with her, I would say is an understatement. I have a host of emails from people with cracks in their walls and, you know, picking up 5-gallon buckets of stones. And I personally have been out walking quite a bit. It doesn't show on the waistline, but there have been clearly an increased, you know, kind of truck traffic. There's potentially some good news in that, in Virginia, thank you, you know, to the select board for considering different options. I think there's been some discussion, you know, about a potential road, an access road that comes out. There's still some concerns, you know, with the owners, and Evan, as you know, the owners have clearly thrown the town underneath the bus as far as how long they've been working with you guys and what it is they've been trying to do. There's, you know, some thought that it's not appropriate for Westford to disallow taking a right, you know, out of the asphalt plant because apparently Route 40 is a state-owned road and a town can't determine that, you know, something that's state-owned, you can turn a right or a left. But I think at this point, you know, it's a matter of, I don't know, Virginia, right? Making an attempt at least at what do we think could be the best option for the town. There's multiple options, whether it's, you know, doing something out the front, an access road, you know, taking the telephone pole out. At least the select board's been out there exploring those options. I don't think it's moved at the pace that I'd like to see it at, but I know that there's a lot of different complexities to it that I wasn't aware of until I spoke to Virginia. So I don't know, Virginia, I'll let you give a perspective and I can continue on from there.
I mean, I think you and Evan have touched on a lot of the major points. I think it was 2 or 3 select board meetings ago, we had a comprehensive review of all the options that have been put on the table to date. Because in the past, they've kind of come up as individual options and been looked at in like individual silos. So I had asked, can we put them all on the table and see if any of them are worth revisiting? And I'm happy to go dig up the file that we used during that meeting and send it to you, Joe, if you want to share it with the committee. But they were things like implementing the bus turnaround on Ledge Road. Bill mentioned the telephone pole that would allow a left turn out of Ledge Road. That's not going to help Ledge Road much, but it would help maybe possibly alleviate some of the other traffic issues in town. The access road we talked through, and there's a lot of things that have to fall in place in order for that access road to happen. And I think where it was left at that point was the 2 steps that make the most sense to look at in the near term are what does one of the property owners want or need in order to help enable that, and the second was the approvals that would be needed from the state for easement through some of their land. And then at our last, the meeting that we had, actually 2 nights ago, there was one other option that had been brought forward by some residents, which was looking at whether there was any existing infrastructure left from the old Modern Continental business that had a direct on-ramp to Route 3 when they were working on Route 3. And from what I understand, the answer is no, that a lot of that's been landscaped over, but I think Paul was going to go check and see if there might be some possibility or receptivity from the state to doing something like that in the event that we can't make the road happen. So there's a bunch of different options. Like I said, Joe, I can send you the table. We continue to work it and press it. And we've talked about making this like at least a monthly discussion at our board meetings. So we're pushing it along and not losing lock on it. It's just like Bill said, it's a very difficult problem. It's magnifying now, and there's no easy answers. There's a lot of complications involved with everything we've looked at.
No, I appreciate that. And whatever you have that you think would be good to share with the committee to keep everybody up to speed, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll send it
I'd
to you.
appreciate that, Virginia. Yeah.
Sure.
And it sounds like there may be certain short-term items that could be potentially addressed, and then a long-term item with maybe redirecting
Well,
the
and that was
traffic in that road too.
part of what we were trying to look at is like even the access road, that would probably be a long-term solution. So are there other things we can start looking at now? And then the other thing to weigh is anything you start looking at has a dollar cost to it. So if you go back and review some of the meetings, we were talking about, well, is there at least some initial step we can take to be more informed? And then maybe we decide whether we keep going or say we can't bite off any more of this option. So I'll send the information to you.
Okay, right. Thank you. Anything else to add from that, Bill?
Yeah, as of yesterday, or Monday, sorry, the state, Tom Golden, they are willing, I guess I should say Tom Golden, not the state. Tom Golden is willing to go to the state to ask for whatever it is this town needs, but he's not willing to go to the state until we are clear on what we need and until we are clear that we unanimously agree to that need.
Okay.
So if it's an access road, right, he's he's very comfortable to go to the state to say, hey, look, we need to help in some form or fashion to the town. There's some state property along the highway that we've got to, we've got to be able to provide, access to or give to the town of Chelmsford, whatever the right legality is. But he's not willing to do that until I think we explore the options, and until, as Virginia's saying, we all kind of agree these are the options we would like to pursue.
Right, because the issue is that the state isn't going to act unless they know that the town is aligned, because they have limited time and dollar resources, and so we don't want to go in there without having that alignment. And Tom said this many times, because you probably get one shot at it, so you don't want to turn them away if we're not all on the same sheet.
So,
Yeah,
so does that mean that we should appeal to the town, DPW, police, however it should be, or the board, to make sure that there's a committee to narrow down the specifics to come to that agreement?
Well, that's all part of what we're looking at right now.
Right.
I don't know that it's a committee. I think the board is it came out of the traffic. It's part of the overall traffic issues that we're trying to work as a board in conjunction with the town manager's traffic committee.
Yeah, Joe, I don't think there's a question, Virginia being on the select board, she knows how the traffic is impacting, North Chelmsford, and this is one of their regular agenda topics. For us, team, I will say, for us, there's a lot of things going on, in the community for sure. For us, this could be one of the largest that's really kind of impacting our property values, our safety, and everything else. Trust me, I'm looking forward to discussions about trees and beautification and everything else, but this has gotten to a point now where it is impacting the quality of life in North Chelmsford.
So, Bill, this is Mike Walsh. Joe, can I just jump in on this conversation?
Of course, of course.
I haven't caught up with Bill offline yet, but I was just, there is a lot on this end of Route 40 where the access road wants to come through. I know the issues over at Ledge Road. One thing that I was concerned about is if they do put the access road in, it's my understanding that you're still not going to be able to mandate no trucks on Ledge Road. So instead of having one problem right now, you're going to create two problems. This neighborhood up here has 19 homes. Right now they deal with over 200 trucks a day coming out of the asphalt plant up this way. We're dealing with the smells of the fumes of the asphalt plant every morning and every night. And so when you're thinking about this roadway, which I'm all for if it solves the problem on Ledge Road, but it can't have both sides. You can't put a new roadway in and destroy the neighborhood that's up on this end with additional trucks. And then there's an option too, that if the developer wants to give us the land, she wants it to be spot zoned commercial. And spot zoning commercial up in this area opens up Pandora's box. And it's exactly what the developer wanted from day one, 3 years ago when they started to come to this town. So we've just got through the one agreement on the planning board for Route 40 on the south side. If commercial opens up on the north side, I guarantee you that development's going to change, because the zoning bylaws allow different developments to come into play. And I just want, before you're talking to everybody, you got to think about all of what this opens up. And if we can solve the problem on Ledge Road, all for it. But if it's going to create two neighborhoods that get destroyed, you got to be careful about that. That's just my 2 cents. And I know I'll catch up with you, Bill, offline. And in the future, there's going to be some public hearings regarding this, but we just can't give in to the developer. She's not giving her land for free. She wants something out of it. So just keep that in the mind. And I understand there's a lot going on Ledge Road, and we got to solve that problem, absolutely. But you come up here, sit up here already. All those trucks that come down Ledge Road come and turn on Route 40 and are heading towards Route 3. This area is overwhelmed already with trucks. So, and the fumes, which we haven't even started to talk about yet as a committee. So just please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Mike, I've heard about some of those fumes too. It's awful, and you couldn't be any more right. I mean, let's not solve an issue for one street, right, to only cause an issue for another street. And for the record, my particular road or any roads that my families live on are not, impacted. I think you've got it spot on. Look, we all knew this asphalt plant was going to be a disaster, and it's starting to come to fruition. And more than, Mike, as you just mentioned, it's apparently more than just traffic, right? It's people's health and everything else. I think, unfortunately, we do have to turn our attention from some of the beautification stuff that we've always wanted to a little bit of, this stuff, and, how we're gonna actually manage our own living situation here for the next, couple of years and for futures to come. It's awful.
This is a great conversation. And as you've heard me say before, I encourage this committee and all the committees I engage with to prioritize and advocate. My only, I guess, comment as essentially an outsider observing this process unfold at this point is that my understanding is that the Board of Selectmen are the we at this point. It's their forum, it's their process, and more importantly, it's their time frame, it's their timeline. And I think part of the challenge that the community is having, and maybe some members of the committee are having, and Bill, you expressed this, you wanted to move a lot quicker. So I guess my word of caution or my message is, if we collectively are working together, I think it's critically important to follow the lead and support the Board of Selectmen as opposed to trying to get ahead of their process. Because as we've said tonight, assuming the Board of Selectmen come to a point where they request Representative Golden to provide assistance, we get one shot at it. So, and I think Virginia and some of the other board members are beginning to understand not only the complexities from a financial and permitting process, but a political capital challenge as well. And so, it's not clear to me at this point whether there is unanimous support for one or any option. I think that's what the Board of Selectmen are trying to work through. And as we've all agreed and discussed tonight, it's very complicated on a variety of levels.
Yeah, Evan, from my standpoint, you're right. It's complicated. There is a lot of stuff that's really happening that's unfortunate to North Chelmsford because of the asphalt plant. Let's face it, seriously, like this is an absolute S show for North Chelmsford. But then I'm going to go one step further, and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to say, we had an opportunity, and I've told Tom Golden this, as a matter of fact, this morning. We had an opportunity with things like Tingsboro Road, while they're repaving stuff, Evan, to go ahead and do things like the sidewalk. It was in our master plan, and I told Tom, I go, look, this asphalt plant is turning North Chelmsford upside down. And yet we have something like we have something like a master plan where we wanted to do, sidewalks, and we have the state paving a road, yet no one can actually coordinate themselves together to put in a sidewalk while we're actually repaving a road. I've lost all hope for what we're doing in this whole, vision. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, that certainly is something that I have noted, like in this morning's email, and wanted to bring up as well, Bill, because you brought me up to speed with that. And when you look back at the documents that Evan sent out to us, it's right there from years 2 to 10. That is right there from the original plan. And at what point is it, like us as a committee, we're always waiting for these things, but where are the missing pieces of communication between us, the town, and the state, that when this stuff gets done, we need to make sure that we're in the know, or this stuff is highlighted so it gets done in the best cost, just like I'm trying to get the Barney Ave and the parking followed up with the tennis courts. And I don't want to jump around here, but these are all connected items. How do we make sure the right people are involved with the process and the planning, so we as the neighborhood, the town, and the state are all operating on the best costs and best opportunities when we have the planning all these developments? I agree with you totally. And I don't know if you have anything to add with that, Evan. Is there a missing piece that happens between the state and the town where to get stuff like that done with these master plans, whether it be here, center, or et cetera?
Yeah, so my understanding is that this was a repaving project. It was not on any state transportation improvement plan. If it were, our representatives on NIMCOG, who are also on the Board of Selectmen, would have been aware of it. Repaving projects happen as time is available or funding is available. And in this particular case, and likely in most cases for repaving projects, the state does not coordinate with the town for a routine repaving project. That's not to say that the town shouldn't have or doesn't have routine communications with MassDOT. I'm not involved in those. I know that the town is trying to advance transportation projects, and as part of that, there is engagement with MassDOT. But MassDOT, like the town of Chelmsford, has different departments, and very often those departments may end up being siloed. So the person that Steve Yonley at Chelmsford DPW is talking to advance transportation improvement projects is very likely someone entirely different than who's in charge of doing repaving projects. So I don't disagree that somewhere between state, local, and representatives, and there needs to be and should be a better means of communicating. I'm just not aware that process or dialogue exists for projects that are considered kind of repair, routine maintenance, repaving.
Hey, it's Bill. I don't know who on from the public, so I'm trying to be respectful. Evan, I love you. I love all the things that we're doing in town, but the fact that we had repaving on Tingsboro Road, and this is one of our bigger areas. When I first talked to Tom, he's like, Jesus, seems like a no-brainer, and he's been trying. But no one from the town, he said, Bill, no one from the town reached out, and I mean, shit, honest to God, heck, I'd put money in. I'm not gonna, whether we talk about the asphalt plant, whether we talk about, the sidewalk, we're all focused on, some big things in town, which rightfully so, right? 129 and things like that. But it's a big loss. I lost a lot of credibility in the town in this one. This won't happen for another 10 years in our opportunity to do something like this. So I don't know how many opportunities we're going to get, but I think that we probably lost out on a big one here. It's not completely dead, team. I have correspondence from Tom that went directly to the Department of Transportation. I doubt that something is probably going to happen. It's probably a 95% chance no, a 5% chance yes, but I don't know. All the hard work and things like that we put into a master plan, and we have these things, and we got a great opportunity, and we miss it. Don't know what to say.
So in this 11th hour, under these circumstances, is there somebody that we should be contacting internally in the town to also get involved? Okay. Like nobody at DPW or, okay.
I sent a note, Joe, to Paul, to Gary, to Evan, Tom, and said, hey, you know, Tom and I have we've been talking about this now for, you know, the last month or so, you know, since he's become aware, but I don't think there's been any right communication, Evan, at least from the town to Massachusetts, right? To the state.
Certainly none that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
You know, even if there were to be a successful outreach and dialogue, the state's response, or MassDOT's response, is likely there is no additional funding to add sidewalks. Obviously, that's where the capital, the political capital comes into play.
Yeah.
That political capital kind of needs to be, you know, aware of a potential project. So, you know, in this particular case, I don't see any scenario where Representative Golden or any town official was aware until MassDOT announced it.
Yeah,
Meeting-
Janet, in the minutes, I think you probably need to put in that the town has not made any contact with the state, right? And Evan, sorry, I think it's disappointing. You can quote me as I think it's crap.
Bill, this is Mike. So just what I know about the state and the construction work and all of that, that project that's taking place right down the street, it was probably bid early spring, if not late last fall. So it would have had to have plans to put sidewalks in when the design was being done and when it was going out for bid, you know, on the time frame. So we should have been having this discussion a year ago with Tom in the DPW, just to give them some. It's right now at the 11th hour, I don't believe there's anything you can do to get sidewalks put in there now, which is unfortunate. I understand that, but it's just the way the process of the procurement of the state, it takes a long time once the drawings are done, right, Evan? And they get into the process.
Agreed. This also could have been a last minute repaving project where the state, MassDOT, has time and extra money available, and they have a window of opportunity. So very often, routine repair and replace it, repaving projects don't follow the traditional 1 year out design and pre-bid process.
And Bill, being at all your meetings up to the point where we're at now, I can appreciate your frustration. I share it with you. And so again, as we agree, I mean, if anything can be done at the 11th hour, we'd love to see it happen. But I believe we have to take a look at all the different aspects, town, DPW, or communication within, you know, our town management into the state to make sure that we're better than this, to make sure our intentions as committees, as master plans, as a town, we work together, because there have been other things as simple as plowing in the winter that we point to the state and the state points to the town, that we have to get better than this. So if there's anything that can be done for the sidewalks, I'm obviously all for it, because we would love to see that walking path easily right from Williamsburg right into Vinyl Square as planned. But we have to use this to get better in the future for other projects and as a city and the town and the state.
Yeah, hey, Mike, you're right on the whole. It had to be done before, right? Evan, maybe the follow-up is from an MCOG perspective. We did the master plan with MCOG. Do they have any visibility into things like this? And if they did, you know, I don't know, team. It's like we went through this whole master plan, like we had these priorities. This is one of the priorities, is like opportune thing to do. And the master plan was done, you know, years ago. So if no one knew what was going on, like who missed it? I feel like it's like the sewerage thing. Like, how did we not know that too many people are flushing their toilets? How did we not know that they were coming in our backyard and paving and we wanted to put a sidewalk there? I don't know.
Can I ask the question about complete streets? Because I understand it's on the prioritization plan. It's probably not in the 2019, 2020 budget. It doesn't seem to have a date on it. And can whoever's kind of the point person on complete streets in town report back to the committee on when that might be in the queue? Because it's $500,000 that we asked MassDOT for, that I would assume they would go forward with if we move that up the list on the prioritization plan.
Good point.
Right. And I get your, you know, MassDOT's coming in and District 4 is going to repave as a routine repaving project. In my experience, it's not totally uncommon for them to come back a year or 2 or 3 later and put in sidewalks. It doesn't really, it's not ideal, right? From anybody, like, why would you do that? But it's different pots of money, right? For them, there's a, you know, a big pot of money that goes to routine maintenance, and then the complete streets funding is kind of a separate pool. I think that's kind of the avenue. Since it's already in our complete streets prioritization plan, let's just find out where it is in the queue, and if it could be put on the 2021, 2022 list, I think that's an avenue to get it done.
Bill, you missed the introduction. That's our new committee member, Brian Kramer, and we're glad to have him. Those are good points,
So
Brian. We appreciate it.
Evan, is it you? Is it
This is
BW, the engineering department? What's that?
Complete Streets is operated via DPW.
Okay.
If I understood you correctly, you're saying that Tingsboro Road is on that plan?
It is. Yep. Sidewalks on Tingsboro Road from Williamsburg Conda.
Does it have any time frame or horizon?
Did we miss? Are we losing people here?
I'm good.
I'm good. He looks frozen.
Give a wave if you. There you go. Okay.
Looks like it was Brian.
All right, Brian froze.
Completed the first one.
Oh,
There you go.
Brian.
Okay, Brian, you just came back up just now.
Oh.
Does the plan give an indication of time frame?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. It's generally you can't ask for additional funding until you've completed the last project on the plan. That's my understanding of it. But,
So I missed something, Brian. Where is it exactly you saw the sidewalks were actually on this plan for Tingsboro Road?
Yep. There's no, I mean, it's a plan, right? They call it a prioritization plan. It's just a list of wants. That's all.
Right.
Joe, Brian's referring to like a town plan, not your master plan, not
Right.
MassDOT's Tingsboro
Okay.
Road repaving plan.
But that's still on Chelmsford's town plan that needs to go to the state because that's a state road. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
So I think the action would be whoever the DPW point person is, to report back to this committee when they think that could be in the queue. I don't know. Is that fair?
I'll follow up. Yeah, I'll follow up.
Okay.
I'll get
Thanks.
the answer for you.
Awesome.
Okay, we've spent a lot of time on this item. This is, like Bill said, this is a crucial, very most important part of what we're here to bring to the village and to improve the area. So it's time well spent. But does anybody else have anything to add? Or I'd like to move on to the next topic. Because at this point, I mean, I don't think we can solve anything on this call, Bill, but if you have any,
Nope.
yeah, if you have any updates through Tom Golden or anybody else, just share with us as you get them, okay?
No, I don't think so either, guys. I'm doing my best just to give an update.
Okay, thank you. The update on the Barney renovations, again, thanks for being here, Steve Callahan, and the pickleball and tennis court has been put up. So I appreciate all your work on that, Steve. And as part of that project, we've brought the whole idea of the parking to light with the select board, and they discussed it and approved making sure that parking is addressed. That's also there. And that street really needs to be addressed as well. So Steve Yanley is aware of that. And as the follow-up from last meeting, I sent an email and included Paul, and he said he's looking to have funds approved for projects, and that would be included, we hope. And so that would be good to address the final parking project with the street that desperately needs to be paved. But again, I just want to thank Steve for his work there and getting that project done. That was obviously part of the plan for our master plan and getting that phase 2 done. And one other thing I want to add is, as per normal, when we would do an improvement to the park, we have nice events, can't do that. However, what has been put together, and it's been posted on Facebook, is that there is a pickleball clinic that's going to be run. And that's posted, and that's got a couple of dates coming up. I don't have them. I could actually share or review. But those dates are coming up where a couple of people that live in town are going to give up to 6 people, 6 adults each date, and they're going to show them how to play pickleball if you don't already have knowledge of the game. And it's just a nice way to introduce it to the community. And they're looking to do things like that from there. But other than that, there's not going to be that many things going there since it's only one court, but it's a nice thing to have. And again, I just want to thank Steve for all his hard work, and we continue to rely on him to keep the park clean and updated, and thanks again. Anybody else have anything to add?
Yeah, while Steve is here, and we don't get to have him too often at our meetings, do we want to get an update on the playground?
Yeah, we're gonna we need to put a committee together, so that would be me. And the playground is approaching end of life. So it's time for us to put a group together, and what the neighborhood, what the North Chelmsford wants there is what we should pursue. So I would be looking for people that want to get involved. We started this and then things sort of went south with the pandemic, but I'm very interested in getting Varney updated to a new playground.
Right. We have people that showed interest last summer, and we were looking to regroup with them this spring, and then I hate saying it, but COVID hit, and that's what derailed everything. But we did meet in the summer with Steve and Colleen just to do due diligence like we do every year about safety and any improvements, and that had to be a limited group, and we just shared everything back to the neighbors as a result of that, with the intentions for the pickleball court. And as per usual, if you see something reported, et cetera, and all things are good under the circumstances.
Steve, what's the timeline?
Well, I guess it would be with funding, but I'd like to see something go in the next, say, 18 months.
So is that, on your end, has that funding been discussed? Has it been slotted?
No, it hasn't. I want to get the pickleball tennis court behind us, and that's worked out great. So this is the next step. In fact, I may reach out to you at some point about that, but put a committee together, and then we're going to have to get some funding from there.
And I'll work together with Steve. We are in regular communications. What my plan, and we've spoken already about this is as soon as we can meet, and I would hope it's soon, but you know, we can host something in North Town Hall. We don't know when that's going to be able to be open or whatnot, but and then we'll invite those same neighbors we had last summer and invite others to get an input session of what they'd like to see and just get people more involved to formulate what they'd like to see to improve the playground. And that's where Steve has been very gracious with his time and ideas and meeting during any time he can make himself available, and we appreciate that.
I'd like to get that going. I'd like to get that going soon, Joe. So I'd like to reach out, get some emails, and get the committee, get the family going with that, with the neighborhood going with that, because it's time. It's time for a new playground.
What is envisioned for the committee? What's the committee's role?
I think they should. Well, I you know, if you go around town, there's different tastes in equipment. We have 2 or 3 large playground companies, and so I think one of the things is you could go to Roberts Field. That's Landscape Structures. You could go to Byam. That's Compan. That's a European company. And I think one of the things would be to look at the equipment and start deciding which company they like, what kind of equipment they like.
Okay, so just to refresh the committee's memory, I don't believe the committee, there's no expectation that anyone fundraises for this. My understanding is that that via CPC and/or capital, if I recall correctly, a playground of this size, DPW would budget about $400,000 for a DPW replacement. Is that about right, Steve?
I can't answer that, but I know for sure that it was discussed above me that the fundraising was not going to happen. So I concur with you on that.
So my understanding is that if the community or committee wants something bigger and better than what the town is willing to allocate for funding, then there may need to be fundraising, such as Roberts Field. But if the community is in agreement with a budget, and then the committee is working with Steve and DPW on what's the style between the different vendors, it's a pretty straightforward process.
Yes.
But if you want to go above and beyond and have a customized, and it exceeds what the town views as a reasonable budget, yeah, then the community is going to have to fundraise. But,
well, you know, we have had a committee in the neighborhood, and you know, that works part and parcel with the playground, the beach, the park, and that committee is live, but it needs new blood, and that's a whole another nature of it, is to get new members, continue that tradition, and also work with Steve to take next steps on replacing what he has brought clearly to our attention that's end of life. So to his point, he just wants to make sure the neighborhood gives their 2 cents on what they want to see there, especially coming off of Friendship Park. And there's so many people that go there now because of all the things that they went above and beyond to bring to there. It's actually bringing more traffic, more eyes and ears. And, you know, we want to keep it, you know, a neighborhood park and what we want, et cetera. So, but yeah, we'll continue that, Steve, and you and I will continue to chat, and we'll get more people involved sooner than later. We have to do a Zoom call. We'll do that as well.
Absolutely.
And I'll keep everybody here on this committee just updated when we get that going, in case anybody here wants to join.
Joe, can you hear me?
No, I think this is
Yeah, I can hear you, can't see you, Bill. Can hear you, but can't see you. There you are.
Hear me, see me?
Yes.
There he is.
Steve, what can you get us the replacement cost? So here's how I look at it. They put in a playground for X, you know, it is what it is, right? Today, to put that same playground today for X, right, is where you would start. Am I thinking that the right way?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and this is Laura. To me, this seems like a great opportunity to look into the neighborhood and find some of the folks with younger kids. I know when that playground was built the last time, it was a lot of people with younger kids with a long-term vision. They'd be using it. And, you know, those aren't people that we have in our committee per se right now, so we should put a call out for some of those folks.
Yeah, that's a good point, Laura, and we had a good mix that last summer, and we want to keep that fresh and keep looking for more people as well.
Is can I ask a kind of general question about the appetite for applying for a grant? I know of the Massachusetts Park Grant, PARC, that is on a July application schedule, and it's I think a 70% reimbursement. That's about all I know. I've never gone through the application process, but I don't know what the appetite is.
The improvements that you see down there that happened recently, the basketball courts, the ADA accessibility, renovation of the bathhouse was all done with a $500,000 park grant.
Great. Okay.
Within the last maybe 3 years.
And brainstorming, but like CDBG? I don't know.
We're not eligible.
Okay.
So we could apply again, but for a playground in a suburban community, I would.
Yeah, chances.
My opinion would be use CPC and general funding, if not entirely CPC at this point.
And that's CPC to go above and beyond the 400,000 that DPW would have otherwise committed.
No, it wouldn't surprise me at all. Roberts Field used CPC money. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if a playground replacement, new playground starting at 400,000 wasn't entirely funded using CPC funds. It's legally eligible
Right, as an open
purpose
space.
for CPC funds.
Sure.
I don't know what the funding stream is for 18, 24 months out on capital projects. But I think if the town had a choice between, I think our annual capital is about 3 million now, town-wide. And if the town had a choice to spend 400,000 of that on non-CPC eligible projects, my guess is the town preference would be to maximize the 3 million in capital and use CPC money where it's legally eligible.
Makes sense.
All right, great. Thank you. Thanks again, Steve. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you being there for me whenever I need you offline as well. Let's see. All right. But one last question about the Vonnie. Have you spoken, Steve, to Steve Yanley about anything about what he mentioned about even just putting gravel in that area where the parking's supposed to be, or is that just on hold?
It's on hold. I mean, I could speak to him again about it, but
Okay.
I think we're waiting for that. When you reached out to Paul, I think we want to hear about the money, the 400,000 or something for the paving? If you think we should put, I'll approach him again if you think so. I think it's fine the way it is.
Okay.
But, you know, if you folks feel that it would benefit what's there now, I'll definitely speak to him.
No, I just didn't know if there was anything that we would expect, because I share with you, my concern is that I want you and the engineer to make sure you incorporate what the neighbors want and make sure it all works and in with the road. So I wouldn't want you to do something sooner if it wasn't the right thing.
No,
I don't know if there's anything developed. Okay. Okay, now we're on to the trees at Vinyl Square. I don't know what you want. We've taken up a lot of time. We're already an hour in. I don't know what we want to address with the trees, with all the other road work and sidewalk. We can just at least discuss it and whatever you want to do for next steps on that.
Yeah, I agree. Within the context of tonight's meeting, I wouldn't suggest we spend a lot of time on this. I sent out a lot of information.
Right.
Essentially, to boil it down in 30 seconds, there's approximately 6 in-the-ground locations that Howard Stein Hudson has verified would not be in conflict with any long-term future streetscape, traffic, parking improvements to the square based upon a concept plan that Howard Stein Hudson had presented to the committee some time ago. Of those 6 that are in the ground, 2 of them are located within the landscaped island for the municipal parking lot. Those are actually outside of MassDOT jurisdiction, and it wouldn't require any paving to be cut. So those 2 could be planted, right now. The other 4 are on the opposite side of the street, in front of the Rosie's section of building, and the remaining 2 are in front of the parking lot next to Rosie's. One of those is on private property, and the other one is within the state right-of-way. So all in all, there's 6 total, 3 of which would require MassDOT approval. So the $10,000 that town meeting allocated a couple town meetings ago is still in an account. It's eligible. I just need to verify whether that vote was specific to planters or if it was more general related to trees. If it was general in nature, then the funding is good to go, assuming that the committee continues to support and pursue in-ground option. In order to get that done, we would need to reconvene with Howard Stein Hudson to contract them to assist us, meaning the town, with getting the permitting from MassDOT. I don't expect that to be a heavy lift, but it is a permit that is required. And then the committee can continue to discuss whether it wants to pursue planters. We've kind of beat that around, and there's pros and cons to that. My suggestion is, because we have the funding in place and we've done the due diligence working with Howard Stein Hudson, my suggestion would be that we pursue the 6 in-ground trees. Offline, you can take a closer look at the plans that I sent you. They highlight in yellow those 6 that are in-ground without any conflicts with future potential improvements.
Okay, well, I appreciate you at least giving the overview there, and I would just ask the rest of the committee to go through those documents, be more prepared the next meeting to be speaking more to it. Yes, Bill.
But what? Let's just do it. If Evan's got 6 trees he wants to put in, just do it, man. We've been talking about trees for freaking ever. Evan, go for it. I mean,
Okay.
I see that we've been talking about all the signage in North Chelmsford too, and I see it in Chelmsford Center. Looks great. Do it.
Okay.
So
Do which one? The planters, the in-ground,
In-ground. I'll
okay.
make a motion. I motion that we go for Evan's plan with the 6 in-grounds.
I guess I have questions before we do that. Can I ask questions?
Of course.
Sure.
One of my concerns would be, number one, when will we plant them? But number 2, and this is where I think we need some guidance. And number 2, if we put in-ground trees in, my very limited knowledge is you've got to do some caretaking, making sure they get enough water as they start to establish themselves. How does that happen? I guess, so overall, I feel like there's some things we might need to know before we do this. I definitely think it's time to move forward.
Right.
But I don't know if we need information from the tree company, from the consulting company.
So why don't maybe the next step is with the committee's support to advance the project, which would mean circling back with Howard Stein Hudson, contracting them for the phase 2 to work with the town to get the permit from MassDOT. That's a couple month process.
Is it a temporary access permit or what other permit will we need?
I don't know the specific name of the permit, but MassDOT owns the right-of-way.
Kingsborough Road, sure.
Yeah, so it's clear to me at this point, based upon talking to town officials and our consultant, that it requires some sort of permit from MassDOT.
Yes.
I don't think it's a major hurdle, but certainly we can't do it without the proper permitting. So best case scenario, even under Bill's just, move forward and get it done, we're talking about likely planting next spring. We'll get the permit, engage with MassDOT, get the permit. That's going to take a couple months. I can update you at your next meeting. The permit likely won't be issued, within the next 30 days. And then as we need the committee to answer questions, what kind of tree, I will be able to outline kind of how it's going to be installed and maintained. I'll be able to provide you more information rather than trying to take up, all the time this evening.
Right. Yeah, and Bill, we definitely, we want to do it. It's a matter of the specifics on exactly what Evan's saying, what trees, where specifically. And there's been other concerns about, snow and snow removal, and just making sure we're all on the same page. I just want everybody to take a harder look. For the sake of time, we're just not going to spend all, the whole rest of the time for that.
Take a harder look because we've only been doing it for 2 years. Let's go. Another year.
Okay.
Go. That was very sarcastic.
It was a little, yeah. Can I put out there, Evan, when your correspondence with Howard Stein, and I know their work pretty well. They do a pretty good job. Can we make can I ask that they consider a larger tree pit, the 4x4? It's a really small pit, and to get a tree to thrive, frankly, it just needs more soil than that.
Brian, I appreciate your perspective, being familiar with landscape architecture. I'll talk to you offline. The challenges are that there's overhead wires.
Yeah.
So they need to be a dwarf type specimen. And then the other challenge is that all of these pits need to still accommodate ADA, the 5 foot, I think it's ADA clearance on the existing sidewalk. So I don't disagree with you. I mentioned 4x4, but if you can get a 5x5 or a 6x6, then great. Let me circle with you offline, and I'll be able to bring you up to speed and wrap you.
I realize I'm coming into the process at least 2
Yeah,
years.
no, we appreciate that though.
No, and you have the expertise on probably what type of tree would do best in those locations. So
and the good news is the graded option allows for deeper or maybe wider, because the grade still can count as the sidewalk, correct?
Yeah, I mean, not getting into the weeds, but there was discussion about the tree grate. If it were ADA accessible, then you wouldn't necessarily need a 5 foot clearance on a sidewalk. These are all items that would have been kind of detailed through the permitting process. So if the committee would like, I'll wrap Brian into my engagement with Howard Stein Hudson, and then Brian can provide a better update at the next committee meeting.
I think that sounds great.
Sounds good.
Yeah, as long as we're continuing to make momentum to see these things happen, that's what we want to do.
Hey, Evan, if I'm correct, do I need to make a motion though for you to have to take action? I do not want to just move this forward. Come on, team. It's been 2 years we've been talking about trees.
You can if you want. It's not required, but if the committee wants to have the minutes reflect. Yep.
You have to act on it.
Oh, no question. I mean, I have the funding in place. We already have the contract. The phase 1's been completed. Phase 2 was the second part of the contract, so it's ready to go. So, I mean, I would welcome a motion from the committee. It solidifies it, and then there's clear expectations and marching orders.
Okay, I'll probably get this wrong, so please, team, help me out with the motion. But I make a motion to request that Evan move forward with assessing the permanent trees in Vinyl Square in order to
get the MassDOT permit.
Get the MassDOT permit. I'm sorry, Janet. I know that you're taking notes. I'm trying to be cognizant of people taking the motion too.
Yeah, I'll amend the motion only to
please. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, include Brian in the correspondence, and we'll come together. Evan and I will report back to the committee at our next meeting.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Awesome, and thank you, Brian.
So we have a
Sure.
motion. Need a second?
Plant some trees. I'll second it. Sure.
Okay, all ayes have it?
Aye.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Bill. Okay. So Route 40 rezoning. I know that's been an item that's been out there, and I don't know if we have any updates, but Mike, you have anything to share? Or is there any updates or anything you want to add?
So I can give you an update. So I think the word rezoning is not relevant because there's no rezoning of Route 40 that's on the table right now. I think you're referring to the project, which is the subdivision on the south side, because there was rezoning that was last summer, a year ago, that went last fall, I forget, last spring, at the town meeting that the Route 40 committee recommended rezoning, which got turned down by the town to resolve the zoning conflicts that we have on the Route 40 by Route 3 end of Route 40. So I think the title of Route 40 rezoning is probably not relevant, but I'll give you an update on the south side. I know that's what you're referring to. So on the south side, planning board, I want to say 2 meetings ago, I recused myself as being an abutter to the project. The board approved the 12 structures to be built on the subdivision on the south side of Route 40, which would consist of each structure is 2 townhouses. So it's a total of 24 residences going in there. All utilities, everything's coming out onto Route 40. And they pushed them off the neighborhood. They were working with the neighbors down here to leave a buffer zone of the mature trees. So that everything was in, I think, everything was in line and the neighbors were okay with it. The planning board approved the special permit to get 2 extra buildings in there because they made some accommodations to the neighbors. So that's been approved. We all got our official letters earlier this week, all the abutters, and that it's been filed with the clerk's office. So, Evan, is there anything else update on that?
No, I think that covers it. But just for clarification, and I agree with Mike's update, there would be no community discussion on any Route 40 rezoning unless and until the Board of Selectmen choose to engage with the property owner on the north side, specifically related to the access road. And that's been discussed earlier this evening.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Mike. And Evan.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, businesses in Vinyl Square, and some movement and updates there. Bill, do you want to take the lead on that?
I would be happy to. And I'm going to ask a serious question. What time is the debate on?
9 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah, so team, I spoke to Louise the other day, and you all know that I've known Louise forever. And she actually has multiple tenants moving into the hardware store. And I mean multiple. And I said, you know, that's fantastic. That's good for you. So she's got enough people that the previous individuals that came in front of us with the, what was it, the engineering and salon?
Yeah.
It did not work out. I don't know the individuals personally, but it did not work out for a number of different reasons. But Louise has several, which is more than 3, right? It's at least 4 tenants, and she is getting quotes on the outside
of the building. So that's great news. She does completely understand that there are others in the local community that would put forth their own hard-earned money and figure things out. So that's out there. I'm going to go clockwise. The Parley building where Tequila's has been sold from the Parley family, been sold to a terrible family. They're garbage, Gilet family. So that was a joke. Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Well, so what are your plans for that building there, Bill? Do you have anything else to share?
It is actually my uncle and my cousin went and bought it on their own, different from the mill.
Okay.
But the good news is, I guess, is we have an inn and we have someone who owns it within Chelmsford. If I continue clockwise, the Picken Insurance and Printing Building has also been sold. It will be an auto paint distributor. It is not something that they do on site where they paint cars. It's like a retail. Something around the fact that you know, they have auto paint and they don't need a whole heck of a lot of storefront. You know, people aren't coming in to do that. They need a whole heck of a lot of storage space in the back, and they wanted to be prominent. So that's what happened there. And if I come all the way around, the only other one I'm aware of is that I think most of you know that the Vinyl Square liquor store sold their license. They are going with a local, you know, liquor store owner that owns some others in the area, which is good. Although I will say that they're going to move the liquor store most likely to the condemned building that's next to the Princeton station. And again, Virginia, you know me a heck of a lot more than I do, which is great. We don't want that being, you know, one of the stores that we look at, or properties rather, that we look at coming into North Chelmsford. So,
Bill, is that the same as the craft beer place on the corner?
yeah, the craft beer sold the liquor license.
Got it.
To an individual that owns a couple of other liquor stores. It sounds like they are going to renovate the place next to Princeton Station as the new liquor store. Again, this is only what I've seen on public record, but that Joe Reddy, who is the owner of the property at the Vinyl Square liquor store, would maintain the property, has no plans to sell that, and would in its place.
Billy, we're losing your voice.
Those are the only updates I know from a business standpoint, Joe.
Thank you.
I'll just add to that. Lisa's been actively engaged with Luis from the hardware store. The quotes that Bill's referencing for the exterior, that's likely related to the fact that we have provided Luis with the application manual for the commercial facade and sign improvement program. As you recall, up to $10,000 is available to 5 properties in North Village and an additional 5 properties in Center Village. So we've kind of begun a rolling soft application process for that. So Luis has that 45-page manual. Lisa and I have told her that we are more than happy to meet with her and walk her through that. It can be complicated or a lot of information for someone to go through. But Lisa does not have any more information as to what kind of tenants. Some of you may have seen a Facebook post this week rumored that the hardware store is reopening. based upon the information that Bill shared and Lisa shared, there doesn't appear to be any confirmation one way or the other on that. There's been none of those 3 or 4 tenants, prospective tenants have come into town hall. I'm not aware of any conversations with the building department related to re-tenanting or demising existing space. However, it could be as simple as she has 4 existing tenant spaces and they move right in. If they're office related and they don't need new plumbing or electrical or significant remodeling needs, they could simply move in. I think that was all I had to add to that.
And Bill, I was asking Evan at the last meeting where the facade program was at. If you don't know, what you probably do, but if you come across anybody that's interested, it's just kind of open. We don't want to press that upon the businesses, and they're being pretty open and flexible about the program under the circumstances with businesses open and prioritizing just, doing whatever they can do to make as much money with the limitations we have with COVID. So I appreciate, again, you doing that, Evan, and keep us posted if anybody does apply and any updates from that standpoint as well, more than just always like with that update.
Will do.
Excellent.
So I do see the next agenda item is the Elise Maroney update.
Yes.
She lost power and has spotty Wi-Fi, so she was not able to connect this evening. I won't be able to give her entire update, but I'll give a couple items that I'm aware of. One is that if this committee chooses to do a small tree lighting holiday event, reach out to Lisa. She's more than happy to assist however she can. I can tell you that in a meeting with a Zoom meeting with department heads, the director of the Board of Health made it very clear that the traditional holiday prelude in the center is not an option. Even though the state guidelines legally allow up to 100 people in an outdoor event or an outdoor space and 50 indoors. The decision has been made, or it was discussed, that it would not be politically viable or right messaging for the town to hold even a compliant holiday prelude. North was
Ours
mentioned.
is too big for that as well, Evan, just to let you know.
Okay.
We've had much
all
bigger
I was going to
crowds
say
than
is
that. So
North was mentioned, and Paul Cohen did mention that North is a lot smaller event. At the time, as of a couple of days ago, he did not know anything specific with North. I can update him accordingly, and I encourage Joe to send him an email based upon whatever decisions you've made. The other newsworthy item is that Lisa and I participated in a phone call with a program called Patronicity today. And this was essentially a fundraising, crowdfunding platform that is very prevalent around the country and in Massachusetts. The reason I'm bringing this to your attention is that since COVID, there's been numerous conversations at a variety of different levels within town, trying to figure out how we collectively as a town can further support the businesses. Selectmen have been involved off and on in trying to brainstorm this. So we will likely pursue this platform to roll out a community-wide fundraising event whereby people can contribute to a dedicated account to establish funding assistance to small businesses in town. As some of you are aware, we've had several state grants that have served the same purpose. In those grants, it was a total of $35,000, and we've allocated $1,000 grants to small businesses in town. So it will be along that scope and scale. more specifically to North Village, Vinyl Square. We're also going to explore using that same patronicity platform to be dedicated to North Village, Vinyl Square, where people can provide donations via this platform to support the committee's vision. Your streetscape improvements, your beautification improvements, things that are priorities for the committee. Funding of wayfinding signage, fabrication, installation of those things. So at your next meeting, Lisa will likely be attending. We'll provide you some more information and be looking for some specific feedback as to what this committee, if you had an opportunity to do a North Chelmsford fundraising request, what would be your top 3 items looking to do fundraising on. So give that some thought, and I'll work with Joe to put that on the agenda for next meeting.
Thank you very much. Okay, the municipal parking lot zoning. We touched on that last meeting, Bill, but you know, there seems to be a quandary still with that owner of the duplex behind there with the easement. So I don't know if you have any feedback or knowledge of any other updates potentially for that or not.
We gotta buy it.
What's that?
I said, I think we gotta buy it. Just,
Yeah.
right? Evan, I gotta go over and, you know, make the guy an offer, right? I think.
Yeah, my understanding at this point, most of this discussion has taken place in executive session with the select board. But my understanding is that it's clear that that's not something that the board or the town is actively pursuing or contemplating. So based upon that, and Bill and I have talked about this offline, there's nothing preventing a community group or individual from pursuing acquisition and then working in a friendly manner with the town to have the goals implemented.
Okay.
Can someone just
Got it.
briefly run me through what the plan is there? Sorry. And if there's a picture or something I can look at offline, that's fine. I don't want to take up extra time, but.
Actually, no, we should definitely send Brian the picture, because Brian, it's actually kind of makes sense, right? You get this municipal parking lot, you can put a road right down behind it and come back up Watton Street, right where Southwell is. So instead of people leaving the municipal parking lot and trying to take a left, which is really challenging, you could put a road just right down behind it and come back up. So the flow of the square would be a little bit better.
Huh.
But the owner wants top dollar. The town cannot pay top dollar, which makes complete sense. So some of us need to go down and talk to him and haggle him down.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Wayfinding, we certainly really don't have any time really to go through that, but what's the latest update anyway, Evan, to say like what we should expect for the next steps for the signage?
Yeah, so the status of that is that the committee's work at this point is essentially done. I think the next step is likely a requested spring town meeting for funding to re-engage with a consultant as well as MassDOT to design the signs, more importantly, identify the locations. As we've discussed, some of those locations may be within the square. That's MassDOT jurisdiction. Others are further out and are likely town jurisdiction roadways. That process is about $20,000 to $25,000 to do the sign design and location study. And then we'd have to do fabrication.
In conjunction with the center, because all of their signs are already up.
Most of them are installed, correct?
Weren't we doing it in conjunction with them? What did we do wrong?
You haven't done anything wrong. You were, as I mentioned to this committee, you were about a year behind them.
Why?
Well, your engagement with the same consultant was about a year after the Center Village engaged with that same consultant.
Why?
I don't really have a good answer for that, other than that Center Village master plan finished before your master plan finished. So they've always been about, a year, 12, 14, 16 months ahead. That's really the answer. Nothing to do with
Yeah.
nothing to do with prioritization.
Select board standpoint, I've about lost my shit. We can't get trees in. We can't get signs in. We have a repaving project being done where we had in a master plan sidewalks put in. Like, how do we put ourselves on the map? Evan, I don't mean to come at you personally, but like,
No, I'm more than happy
this community is
to.
like shit.
I'm more than happy to have this conversation. And please don't take what I'm about to say wrong, because it's got nothing to do with the committee. This is my own personal opinion. At one time, North Chelmsford had at least 3 Board of Selectmen members on it. It may still have 3 Board of Selectmen, Select Board members on it. There's nothing preventing those 3 members of the Select Board to advocate and prioritize North Chelmsford desires and goals and objectives. So, I'm not suggesting that the missed sidewalk is a good example, but the stuff in the center, in the square, those are all things that the board can prioritize. And I believe within the last 2 years, the board did prioritize the municipal parking lot access. So, I don't disagree with frustration and things aren't moving as timely as they should. But I think the committee has everything in place for success. Specifically, at least 3 select board members live in North. So, logically, you would expect that there would be additional consideration for North Chelmsford issues. And I say all that within the context of the Board of Selectmen. The Select Board is prioritizing North with the asphalt traffic. Unfortunately, those efforts are not timely. They're not going to take place in a timely manner. And they have little or nothing to do with the work that this committee has been focused on within your master plan.
If I may say something, I don't recall that the select board voted on wayfinding for Center Village. We got a briefing about options and where the committee wanted to go. And I would say if there are areas where this committee needs support or wants, some help moving things along, then bring them forward to the select board. Get on the agenda and brief us on maybe the issue is it needs a little more visibility and refresher, because I don't think I've ever seen a vinyl square presentation in the last year and a half. So, and it's like anything else. You can't just assume people read it however many years ago and remember it, right? So I would just make a suggestion that maybe if there's things that you think you need more support on to move along, come present them.
And that was part of the committee's discussion.
I believe Center Village or somebody like took the initiative to come present what they were doing with the wayfinding and stuff like that. I don't think it's not any prioritization that the board put on anything. It was a committee report of this is what we're doing.
Right.
So Evan, I take exception to like we have the choice to prioritize the Vinyl Square Committee. I don't think we even have
No, individual
purview
projects.
over some of the things you're trying to do, but certainly if you need support moving things along, come tell us about it.
Yeah, like I said, the example I gave was the municipal parking lot. That was something that the board, I believe, had identified as a specific goal, and then did follow through on that. On the wayfinding, I mean, this committee's always talked about when the time is right to get in front of the Board of Selectmen, just like Center Village did, to provide an update prior to asking town meeting for additional funding. So this will roll out the same exact way. I'm not suggesting, nor do I think you need to do a heavy press on the select board for $20,000. My suggestion is that we begin to put the placeholder for the spring town meeting for the design and location of those signs, and that's what this committee talked about as being the next step. The best example I can give, and again, is well aware of the of the frustrations, is everything we talk about: trees, benches, beautification of the square, has to go through MassDOT. And one of the recommendations in your plan, similar to Tingsboro Road sidewalks, is that the town should explore working out a deal with MassDOT where the town takes control and ownership of the square. So that may be an example where this committee can work with the Board of Selectmen to prioritize that goal.
Right, and one of the things that we agreed as a committee, if you recall, is to work on the wish list, prioritization, and and we've done that, and we've done more of that when it came down to the tennis courts, but we have to do more of it. And to Bill's point, we have to make sure we're standing up for ourselves and make requests, et cetera. And Evan, whatever it was, I mean, just even when we first were shown wayfinding, I was taken aback when they showed center, when I thought he was giving us an example of, oh, this is what you may consider. I found out that was center. So just continue the dialogue or whatever these things get presented. We just want to make sure that we're considered first and foremost, side by side with center or anybody else in town. And we will continue to ask for that and appreciate your support going forward. But I get what you're saying, Bill, and we absolutely want to make sure that we continue to prioritize and do whatever we can with subcommittees and things like that going forward. And if anybody feels like we should have a prioritization subcommittee to pick up the pace on what we look to do here, but I think that's the job of the committee. But if anybody has any idea off meeting, in between meetings, we want to make sure that we bring it to the table and add it to the next agenda. And it's not just these meetings to get things done. There's a lot that's done behind the scenes as well. And like I said, these are good points that are made, but I just want to make sure that we're all kept honest to make sure we do voice our opinion and move forward with any thoughts that the committee can be doing going forward. So, okay. Let's see. So we pretty much, the facade grant program, we already talked about that, wayfinding and planters, we're pretty much done. The only thing I would like to do before I open it up to final thoughts is that to set the next meeting, I'd like to set the next meeting the very beginning of November next month. The only thing we have to avoid is the select board meets Monday, November 2nd. So I'd like to throw it out there, whether it be Tuesday the 3rd or Wednesday the 4th. I'd prefer Tuesday the 3rd, but if we have too many conflicts, we can change that.
You cannot
Election
meet on
day.
Tuesday, the 3rd.
Oh, we can't meet?
You can't hold meetings on election day.
Yeah, no, my bad. My bad. I'm looking at the calendar. We will definitely not be meeting Tuesday the 3rd. I will see you at the polls. Okay. So then is Wednesday the 4th too close to the election, or what do you want to do there?
That works for
Do we
me.
do November 10th?
The planning board.
Okay.
I think we, hold on, I think,
Not on the 10th.
How about Monday the 9th?
The 10th should be fine. It's not a conflict with the planning board.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that was me. Yeah, the 10th works.
Okay.
I'm good with the 10th.
That works for me.
Roger that.
Okay. All right, so the next meeting we will make November 10th. And other than that, I just want to thank everybody for this meeting and participation and everything you do off the meetings as well, for the town and for the committee and for the village, the neighborhood. Does anybody else have anything else that they want to bring up tonight?
Yeah, I do want to mention one thing. Again, it's Laura. Some of you may have seen on Facebook that the annual Halloween parade and party that is held at Chelmsford Community Center, we did cancel that for this year. So I just wanted to let you know, if you haven't seen it, make sure you help us spread the word. It went out in the Independent. I think it'll be coming out in Thursday's Independent, but they also posted on their website. So unfortunate. Hopefully we'll be able to do it next year, but we thought it was the safest choice.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
And
One last thing for me. I think I may have sent all of you, there is a committee in Nashua about the train. Tom Golden is talking to the mayor. I'm going to join that committee, or at least express interest. Before I did, I want to make sure that I brought it forth to this committee. Does anyone want me to add their name or contact information to that? There's a good likelihood that between, something like the city of Lowell and the city of Nashua, that they'll make this work. The big question is, should there be a stop in, Chelmsford somewhere? I would argue between Tingsboro and Chelmsford, there should be, right, from a value perspective to our properties. Yes, obviously a big impact of traffic. There's a whole bunch of things that need to be done. We agree that the most sensible stop would be, like with Vinyl Square, because you could get some state funding and things like that. So I haven't reached out based upon Tom Golden's email. And before I did, I didn't know if I should put forth anybody else's name. And you don't have to answer now. You could just shoot me a text or a note and the likes of that. But I will be.
And Bill, that's a name to be added to the distribution list for the Nashua committee, or is there a is like the New Hampshire state rep also involved?
I think both,
yeah.
Brian. I suspect that there would be some sort of a liaison, through the town of Chelmsford, and Evan, from a town perspective, Virginia from a select board perspective. I don't know what the right protocol is, to be completely honest. I am going to reach out, but I didn't want to get people's names up. I hate to do that. So if you'd like to be included, please let me know. It's one of my passions.
I just want to say, that I have a different passion. And we've gotten in this before. So I just want to make sure that's as a personal choice, not as necessarily a representative of this committee. I think if it was to be as a rep from the committee, that's something we'd have to vote on, because there are differing opinions.
Well, I think, Laura, that's the point. I think there should be a representative from our committee that is liaison with their committee in Nashua.
Well, if it's that, then I think we need to probably set aside a discussion and, determine that we want a rep and vote who that rep would be.
Yeah,
Because there are differing opinions on this. I understand you feel very strongly, and I feel very strongly quite the opposite, so.
and just a thought about that. If the town is going to be sending a rep, maybe that appointment should be from the select board. The highest elected body in town, as opposed to this committee. I don't know. I mean, I'm not aware of the town ever taking or recently taking a formal position on the issue one way or the other. Sending a committee member doesn't necessarily mean you're taking a position. But it depends on who you ask and what one's perspective is.
Good point.
But, again, this may be an example where the committee can engage with the select board and have a dialogue. I agree with Bill. I mean, the town at a minimum should be engaged in the process so that we're fully aware. And if and when there's a decision to be made, we're not behind the eight ball. So, Bill, I commend you for volunteering and inserting yourself in that process. My only suggestion would be, if the town truly wants to be informed, in my opinion, it should be an official appointment. And I think that the select board is probably the most appropriate board in town to send a liaison into that process.
Right, and I would appreciate it if it was somebody either on this committee or somebody that, like Bill or anybody else, that would represent our end of town well and would want to communicate back to this committee any updates from that committee as well. So I think it's all about the same thing. And Laura, and just regardless of what happens, if it's happening, we want a voice at that table. So I agree with you. I think it's a discussion we have to have, but it's something, if it's happening, we just want to make sure we're being heard so it's done right the way we want it done.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, but I think we kind of represent the area. So if we were to go and voice any opinions on what we want to see happen, I really think we need to have a forum where we hear from the community, what is it that, the Vinyl Square area wants? Do they want a station or not? I'm in no position to say that. I have a personal opinion. To be a liaison, to understand what's going on and make sure that we know what's going on, that's one step. So I don't know. I just am raising, the question, if it's a personal, that Bill's going to go to it personally,
right.
That's different than representing the town and representing a committee. And I hear what Evan is saying. So, but I think we need to be at the table. We have to do it the right way, in my opinion.
Bill, is there a deadline when you have to be, you or anybody else needs to join that committee, or?
No, what if I were to take an action to reach out and Evan, if it's okay with you, reach out through email, copy Evan, try to get on some sort of a phone call with them to understand their committee, their objectives, what they're doing, et cetera. And then at the next meeting we have, I will report back on that. And whether it's a liaison from our committee, whether it's a liaison from the select board, et cetera, to put it on there. Make sense?
And Laura, I think you're muted, but
Oops, sorry about that. Yeah, I think that makes sense. That would be great.
And Evan, you okay if I copy you when I
Oh, yeah,
reach out?
absolutely. Yep.
All right, anybody else? All right, well, again, Brian, I hope you enjoyed your first
I
meeting.
guess, yeah, that I should add. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
And again, welcome to the neighborhood.
Thanks.
Look forward to seeing you around town. And that's it. So I will send a follow-up calendar invite for the 10th. And also, we'll just lock down whether it's Teams or Zoom going forward. But one thing I wanted to add is it seems, and I don't know quite the difference, but again, one last thing, Evan, if it is a Teams meeting with a call-in number that everybody can be welcome to that, then we do not have to do the video recording. It just can be the notes per usual. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So stay tuned and you'll see the updates, whether it be Teams or Zoom. You'll get the proper links accordingly. And anything else, as always, to add to the agenda, send it and we'll have it on.
Hey, Evan, or hold on, this is just like totally unrelated. So there's software out there, at least firms develop software where, you know, it's now voice to text. So instead of Janet having to take all the notes, like it actually translates. Hey, do anything? I'm just curious, like town investing in any of that stuff at all?
I'm not aware. I haven't heard of it. If you want to
Yeah.
send me a couple of the links to this type of technology.
Maybe I can get the firm to do some pro bono stuff.
Do we really want all the full translations of the voice to text, Bill?
Yeah, good point.
I think
Yeah.
we may want the short abridged version that Janet does such a great job of.
I know.
Hey, Joe, this was a good meeting. Thank you for running it.
All right. Thank you, folks. I can't wait to start seeing each other in person, but we'll do what we can, okay?
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.